Recently, a significant piece of my personal history and heritage found its way back to me after several decades, and I'd like to tell you about it. Let's take a quick hop back through time to say about 1993. I was living at Greenbush, Michigan, and deeply involved in exploring a late woodland village site in Oscoda, Michigan, which I named the Old Etten Creek site. There were actually two cultural horizons there, middle woodland sparsely, and late woodland extensively. Late woodland was from 500 to 1500 years ago. And at the time, I was also becoming interested in Native American spirituality, under the tutelage of friends like Jerry Wagner and Chief John DeGonigan, both now deceased. This was one of the top 5 times of my life. There were some mysterious things that had happened to me, which spurred my interest in Native American spiritualism. For more on those, please see the links in my description below. You see, I really believed then, and I still do, that I had a special bond of communication with the people who had called Old Etten Creek their home all those centuries ago. And those people allowed me to find literally thousands of items, not only of their everyday life, but also some unusual artifacts of spiritual significance. I wanted to leave some sort of an offering there for them, kind of a thank you, and to Gitchi the great creator spirit who watched over his children of the woodlands, who I equate with the God that I believe in, the God of the Bible. I decided to do a tobacco offering and ceremony, and I tried making a sort of makeshift pottery bowl from shards that I had found, which would be used in the offering, but it just was not working out as I had wanted it to. At the time, I had a very large assembly of authentic pots, and I had considered using one of those, but they didn't have any connection to Old Etten Creek, so I ruled them out. I had been experimenting with polymer clay at the time, trying to make some pottery reproductions for display, but although they had to be the correct size and decoration, they just somehow did not have the right look to them. But I decided to grind up some pottery shards and mix the compound together with the polymer clay, and from that formed 2 small pots. These, because they had ground up pottery in them, had the connection not only with Old Etten Creek, but also with me. I sort of looked at those 2 vessels as a bridge between the ancients and myself. I had a pouch of kinnikinnick, Indian tobacco, which had been given to me by a shaman lady from Beaver Island upon the release of my book, Secret Society of the Shamans. I meditated about the ceremony and selected the day I would do it. And I don't recall the exact date, but it was early in the morning and late in October. To make this less complicated, I will call Mikey my son. There are real doubts about him actually being my son, which is why I say that, knowing the reputation of his mom. But enough said about that. The morning of the ceremony, he wanted to, in the worst way, to go with me and to be a part of it. And he was in the 1st grade, and even at that young age, he had a keen interest in what I was doing at the time. Sad he turned out to be such a total jerk. My stepson David Israel assumed the role as my only son. But it was an incredibly dark and stormy morning, and Kathy forbid me to take him out there with me. She was like that, had to control everything, even if she had to lie to get her own way. So I dropped Mikey off at school, and then I proceeded back to Old Etten Creek. It was raining torrentially, and thunder rumbled with ominous. I felt it was the perfect time for the ceremony. I gathered the items together, even some dry white birch bark to start a fire, and then I got out and walked to what was in ancient times a Native American village. I stood at the top of a 20-foot or so drop-off, and I could very strongly feel a presence there. They were there with me, or so it felt. I took out the little pot that I had made and knelt with it and onto the wet ground. Everything was quiet except for the thunder and the heavy drops of rain pelting on the leaves. I shielded the pot as best as I could with my jacket, and I put dried pine needles in it, some thin strips of birch bark, as well as the kinnikinnick. I don't remember what I said, but I spoke to the spirits of the ancient people who I could feel gathered there with me. I only wanted the contents to smoke and not burn, and that's just what it did. I stood up and I faced north with a small pottery bowl, held it out, then east, south, and west. At each point, I offered thanks for the ancient people and the multitude of gifts that they had given to me that revealed their lives there. I stood there for a long while in meditation and then dug a small hole by the edge of the bluff and emptied the offering into it and covered it. Okay, now let's move forward a few years in time to 1997. That is the year when my ex-wife confirmed what a prolific adulteress she was. I ended up presenting most of my collection to the Oscoda Historical Society, who has not done a very remarkable job of display or preservation. But the two little pots I made, and which one of them that I used in the ceremony that October day, I sold with a few other items to an antique mall in Alpena and forgot all about having done so. Now on to the present, 2016. My friend Jordan Lubin was in the antique mall and he saw the pots and a few other items still there and marked as having been from the Dennis Morrison collection. When he emailed me about them, I kind of sort of flipped out wondering if the museum was selling off pieces of my collection, but they were not. Jordan purchased them and sent them to me. Opening the package was an emotional experience as those memories flooded back to me. It is as though those pieces were held there in reserve, waiting for the right time to return to me. Jordan is very in tune with the people, those spirits of the old Manhattan Creek site, and he served their wishes in seeing the pots return to me. Have no doubt about it, the spirits of Old Manhattan Creek are indeed real, and we might say they haunt the site, but not in a bad way. They tend to it and watch over the site, as well as other people like myself. Jerry Wagner and Jordan Lubin have devoted much time to raise an awareness of them. Truly, I am touched, and I am honored that I was entrusted by them with so much. Well, that's it. Please be sure to like and subscribe if you like, and so you won't miss out on any new programs here on the Dennis Morrison channel. Hope you enjoyed this and have an awesome evening.